Okay, well, we'll make a start. Thanks everyone for tuning in for the second of a 3 webinar series that we're doing on Gallagher Energizers and and some product details about them. This one's obviously going to be focused on the I-Series and the I-Series system. And last year I did a webinar that some of you participated in on some of the benefits of the product and what the system delivers to the farmers. This year I'm going to focus more a little bit on how to use the products. If you're going to set up the system, how you go about doing that. So for those, there's a couple that are tuning in to a webinar for the first time. My name's Byron Arnold and I'm a product manager here at Gallagher in New Zealand. I'm the product manager for all of our Energizers and everything that goes on the fence line that has electronics in it really. My job is to make sure that products and we're getting them in front of the right customers and they're marketed in the right way. So I guess I'm meant to be the product expert, and at the end of today's session we'll have a question and answer section that you can challenge me if you like. Before I get into too much of the important stuff, I wanted to make sure everyone's familiar with the webinar software, so please now have a play around. I'm aware that if you're using a phone or a tablet to view it, you may need to swipe between seeing the slides that I'm putting up. At the moment there's a slide up that says asking questions, or you can swipe across to see the webcam, and the webcam is important because not to see my face, it's not that important, but later on I'll be showing some of the product and you'll want to see the webcam to see the product. There is, as part of the webinar software, a questions form, and that just pops a question up on my screen. I'm going to ignore them all until the end, so if you like, as I'm going through and something comes to your mind, feel free to put a question through using the webinar software, and at the end I'll try and chug through as many questions as we can without taking too long. So, what I'm planning on covering today in this webinar, I want to give a quick system overview of the components that make up the I-Series, the different products, so that we're all talking the same language. I know I'm talking English, which might not be a first language for some of you. I'll try and slow down. But we all need to talk the same language for the products. Then I've got a quick poll just out of curiosity to gauge the audience that we've got here. I'll share the results with you. The poll is on which of the products you have had interaction with, and so the ones that are less familiar to the audience I'll spend a little bit more time on. And then I'm going to go for a detailed look through at each of the products, the main ones being the fence monitor, the I-Series remote, controller, which is the display unit, the SMS controller, and the alarm system. And then at the end I'm just going to finish off with some very easy questions. Okay, so now for a quick system overview, and the slide's just showing the image of the product system, so you may want to switch over to the webcam as I go through them. Obviously the heart of the system is the Energizer, which comes in different sizes, all the way from 12 joules up to our latest is the M10000i at 100 joules. Then we've got the fence monitor, and this is a device that you install it on the fence line as you'd install a gate switch or another fence-based device, and it measures the voltage and the current at that point and sends it back along the fence line to the Energizer. So just by standing at the Energizer, you can tell what the voltage and the current is on the fence at the back of the farm, having to go out there and get that information. Then we've got this, which is a remote and fault finder. So it does everything that a fault finder does, in that it's a handheld device. You can use it to measure the voltage and the current to find a fault, but then when you've found a fault, you can use this to turn the Energizer on and off, which is very handy, of course. You don't need to go back and turn the Energizer off, or you don't need to go to a gate switch. You simply touch it onto the fence and press the off as it turns on. When you fix the fault, touch the fence and press the on button, and the Energizer turns back on. Both these devices, I'm not going to mention this later, so I'll say it now, both these devices can communicate up to, we've tested 15 kilometres, so they can communicate quite a long way along a fence line. Then we have the main display. This is the Energizer controller, and this gives all the information to the user. Really, I'll show this a bit more detail later, but the key thing is this LED that will glow up in the corner, which can glow green or red, and that's the easiest way to tell if the fence is okay or if there's a problem. If it's green, everything's fine. The controller allows the users to adjust the output voltage of the Energizer, and it allows them to set alarm settings, so you can set alarms up or down. Okay, and the last two devices system. This is the SMS Energizer controller. This physically connects into the Energizer, and then it wirelessly connects into a cellular network, and so you can SMS message it. You can text message to this device, and it will send you an SMS message if there is a problem with the fence, so you'll get automatic alarms if there is a problem. The last device is this one here, the alarm system. And this is a security-based device which monitors every pulse on the fence, and if one has the voltage drop too low, or perhaps the voltage drops entirely because the fence has been cut, this can connect to a siren and a strobe and output an alarm so that you know that the fence is down, and perhaps output an alarm to deter would-be thieves or others. So now that I've given a quick overview of the parts that make up the system, just run this quick poll. Which of the following products have you used and are familiar with? So, I'll launch that there. Which of the following products have you used and are familiar with? And you can select one or as many that apply to you. The first is, have you used an I-Serie Energizer? I'm not asking about the 1200i because, as most of you will know, the 1200i doesn't work with the remote and the fence monitor, so it's the 1800, 2858, 10000i. The fence monitor, the I-Serie remote, the I-Serie controller, and the last one is the I-Serie SMS controller. Unfortunately, the webinar software only let me have 5 options, so I couldn't fit the alarm system on there. Alright, most people have voted. Give you 2 more seconds. And now I can share the results. Blink. So, of those that are here today, 93% have used one of the Energizers, which is fantastic, but only 43% have used fence monitor, so we'll spend a little bit of time on that when we're discussing them in detail. 71% have used one of the I-Serie remotes, 57% have used a controller, and 29% have used the SMS controller. So we'll spend a bit of time on that as well, and I suspect the alarm system usage will be quite low because it's quite a unique product. So I can now hide that and we can get back into it. Fantastic. Right, so now into the nitty-gritty of the products. The Energizer, which most of you are familiar with, comes with an easy-to-remove cover that is to protect and help shield the terminals from moisture or dust ingress, and then the terminals are easy to access, and you'll see on the front there you've got green that's connecting to your earth, your ground system, and red which connects straight onto the fence. The black terminal, some people don't understand what the black terminal is for. It's called an earth reference. And so your black terminal goes to a separate earth stake. It doesn't have to be a a substantial earth system, just a separate earth stake is fine, and the Energizer measures the voltage difference between your main earth and that separate earth stake. And if the voltage difference between the two is very low, it means that your earth system is good. If the voltage difference is high, it means that the Energizer is not very well grounded and you won't be delivering a good shock to the animal. So the black terminal, you don't have to use it. It's a fault finding tool to help determine if the Energizer is well earthed and is able to give a good shock on the fence. Actually, one other thing on the Energizer before I move on. For mounting, we include in the back page of the user manual, I'm just trying to get it so you can see it there on screen, back page of the user manual, a mounting guide. So this has actually got a perforated tear, so you can tear it off, and it shows you where to screw the holes so that you can mount the Energizer. And for the 5800i and 10000i, which is a slightly bigger enclosure, as you can see, that has 3 keyholes on the back, so you can mount it single top and down the bottom, or you could mount it across. And again, with that product, we also provide a mounting guide there, and that's included with each product. Hopefully, as you'll know, we have different models to suit different tasks, from the 1200i right through to the M10000i, which didn't fit onto my slide here, but it's something that we're quite proud of. The M10000i is the world's most powerful Energizer at 100 stored joules. I also want to highlight there that the 1200i does work with the Energizer controller, the SMS controller, and the alarm system, but the fence monitor and remote only work from the 1800i and up. So now, getting into it, the fence monitor. The fence monitor you install, the image on the PowerPoint there shows it quite clearly. You install it on the fence line, screw it to the post or attach it to the steel post, exactly how you would a gate switch in the fence line. And you'd install it logically in a similar place that you'd install a gate switch. That allows for the best advantages of the product, which is to help you find faults on your fence. Some customers don't understand the full benefits of knowing the fence voltage and the fence current back at where the Energizer is, and that's what this provides. And so for those customers, I suggest one fence monitor is sufficient, and they install it at the very end of the fence line, and they just monitor the voltage. And if the voltage reported by the fence monitor is okay, then they know that all of the fence line in between, the voltage should also be okay. So in that case, the fence monitor is not going to help them find the fault, but it will certainly give them an early indication if there is a fault on the fence, because they no longer have stock control at the end. So to install this product, simply slide off the lid, and you'll see it comes with AA batteries included. And if I just take the batteries out there are 2 reasonable size holes in the product, and I'll flip it around the back. It comes with 2 screws, so it's really easy to mount. Simply put the screw through like that and screw it onto a post. If you don't have a wood post that you're screwing it to, it does also come with, I think you can, it's hard to see black, the cable tie there. And so you can use the cable tie through the back of it. I'll turn that so you can see what I've done there. Through the back of the product, and you can cable tie it onto a steel post or some other. Once you've mounted this onto a post, in whichever way is most convenient for you, the battery pack goes back in, and the cover goes back on. Now before you close it up, very important, I'll get this nice and close, there is a node switch on it with a little number, and it'll be hard to see this on the webcam, of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And that sets this fence monitor's address with the Energizer. So if it's the only one you're connecting, set it to number 1 is fine. In fact, any number is fine. But if you're connecting more than one of these, you want to make sure that you select the right mode, the right node. So if you're installing the second one, you'd just turn it to number 2, just like that. Then down here it's got the terminals, 3 terminals. To measure the current, the power has to flow through the fence monitor, which means that the terminal on one side is in and the terminal on the other side is power out. It doesn't matter if the power is coming from whichever direction, that doesn't matter at all. As long as the power goes in one side and out the other, this will be able to measure the current. The middle terminal is an earth terminal. And it's similar to the Energizer's earth reference terminal. It doesn't have to be a substantial earth stake. In fact, a 1 foot stake into the ground, 30 centimeters into the ground, is usually sufficient for the earthing of the middle terminal. And that just gives it its reference to make its voltage measurement. The last thing that I'll point out on here is you'll see this bit of wire that's sticking up to the side of this aerial. It's not an aerial. We call it a lick stick, but whatever you like to call it, it's designed so that when the product is closed, like so, if a cow or a horse comes over to sniff and lick around the device and potentially damage it, that there piece of wire is touching the hot terminal, and so the animal will get a shock and hopefully not damage the fence monitor in the process. So that's how to use the fence monitor, which measures the voltage and the current wherever you install it on the farm, and like I said, it can report up to 15 kilometers back to the Energizer. Now, the remote and fault finder, most of you are pretty familiar with this, so I'll gloss over some of it. It has the fault finding features that many will be familiar with other testing products. So it measures the current, it gives you a direction of the current flow, and it also measures the voltage. So it tells you if your fence is giving a sufficient shock to the animals. But what of course it can also do is be a remote, so it can turn the Energizer on and off. And what I've got here is a remote straight out of the box, and when you press a button on it, hopefully you can see that, it flashes a magnifying glass. And that magnifying glass means that it's looking for an Energizer to communicate. It's searching for an Energizer to communicate. I'll show that again. It's missed. So the flashing magnifying glass means it's looking for an Energizer to communicate with. That's how it comes out of the box. All you need to do is press any button and touch it onto the fence. The fence wire goes across it, like you can see in the image on the display there. The fence wire goes across the fence slot at the top. Press any button and it will communicate to the Energizer saying, "Hello, is anyone listening?" And if the Energizer's listening, it will hear that and communicate back to this, and the remote's now tuned in to that Energizer. It can turn it on and off, like this one here that I prepared earlier. So when I press the button on this, you'll see it displays a 1, and it displays it flashes the standby symbol, the international standby symbol, showing that it's trying to put the Energizer into standby. Turn it off. The 1 is because it's the first Energizer that's been programmed into the remote. So this remote can now be tuned into a second Energizer as number 2, 3, 4, up to 9 different Energizers it can be tuned into. And how to tune in and switch over is best explained in the user manual. It's a rather simple process, but you do have to press and hold 2 buttons and cycle through the options. So that's best to refer to in the user manual. like I said, it can communicate up to 15 kilometers, and we've done testing and it's generally pretty good on most fences. You can get some pretty rubbish fences and this device is communicated through a lot of them. So that can be used to turn the Energizer on and off from anywhere along the fence line. Next up is the controller or the digital display. This here, and I'll turn the Energizer on. It'll make an annoying click shortly, but that way you can see both the easy quick reference LED in the screen showing me everything's okay, and the voltage bar graph on the right showing what we're outputting. Now you'll notice that Energizer at the moment is only outputting 6.5 kV. You can use the controller to turn that up simply by pressing the settings button, then pressing the arrow so the bar graph is flashing, and this is a M5800i, so I should be able to turn it up by pressing the plus, then the settings button to apply, and wait for it to apply, and the 5800i now adapts up to 9.0 kV. I'll quickly show you the reverse. Settings, right arrow, so the bar graph's flashing, then the minus button, I can press it right down, then the settings button to apply, and that's turn the Energizer down. You'll notice with this particular Energizer I've got 1 and 2, so I've got 2 fence monitors already connected to us. It's just down on the desk here. I can't turn the webcam without everyone getting giddy and show you, but so I can now, actually it's 5.5, I turned it down a little bit too much and it's gone into alarm, so it's flashing red, which means there's a problem. When I look down in the bottom right corner, I'll bring that a little bit closer, you can see that the Energizer icon has gone bold. So if I now press the settings button, you'll see that my alarm threshold is 6 kV. So I've turned the Energizer down to 5.5 and my alarm level is at 6 kV, which is why it's going into alarm. So now my options are fix up my fence so that the power can come up, or in this case turn the Energizer back up, or I could, if that alarm's not really what I need, I can press the settings button and I can decrease that alarm to 5,000 volts and press the settings button to apply it. It'll turn the Energizer back on. You'll notice the alarm's still there for the first few pulses, but when the Energizer's adapted up, the alarm has now been cleared and we're back to a green light. So that's the basics on using the Energizer controller. It's pretty easy. One final thing is, like I said, I've got 2 fence monitors, 1 and 2, and it's a bit hard to show you, but there's a little indicator at the bottom that at the moment's pointing to the Energizer, and I can press the left scroll. It's now pointing to number 2, and it's going to tell me that number 2 is measuring 2 amps and 4.3 kilovolts, and number 1 is measuring 13 amps and 4.4 kilovolts. So it's able to communicate with those fence monitors wherever they are on the farm and tell me what it is that they're measuring. And just like that, by pressing the middle button, I can put the Energizer back into standby mode. Now that controller, the controller, comes with a 3-meter cable included. The cable that we use is a standard, reasonably easy to get, access RJ12 cable. So you can just use almost any RJ12 cable and a joiner. Should have got it out of the bag. And a joiner to extend the range of that, and it can be extended up to 50 meters away from the Energizer. You can extend it further than that, but then there's problems with the power and so on and so forth. So without getting an electrician involved, you can just buy RJ12 cable from any phone company supplier or provider. They should have some RJ12 cable, and you can use that to extend the controller up to 50 meters away. In most cases though, we've found that it's reasonably convenient with the 3-meter cable that allows the controller to be put on the outside of the barn wall or similar, wherever the Energizer is installed. The last point before I move on from the controller is to remind everyone that it is waterproof. The image that I'm showing is showing one being having water poured all over it, and these products are designed to be outside. It's designed for UV protection and to be pretty tough in all weather scenarios. Actually, I will explain. The black fascia does come off, so I just pulled that off there, giving access to some holes in the corner of the product, and on the back here, 4 screws included. So you just pop the screws out, screw it into the product so that you can mount it on the wall, and then if I do it properly, the black cover just clicks back on and into place. Right, now on to the SMS controller, this one that I've got here. This device, pretty simple really. It has 3 connectors. One is for a DC plug pack that you plug into the wall charge pack, that plugs into there. And then the other 2 slots are for, got one over here, an RJ12 cable. Again, we provide it with the product, but this is just a standard RJ12 cable available from many phone service providers. So it's got 2 sockets there for the RJ12 cable. One is in and the other one is to another device on the line, such as the controller. It doesn't matter which way round you connect it. That's why we haven't labelled it. You can connect it in either way. It's just a bus, which means that either way is in and either way is out. It's fine. The product has an on-off switch, and if I open it up, here we go. If I open it up, it does come with 3 AA batteries for battery backup, and the batteries will only provide power for about 24 to 36 hours, so they're not going to give a whole lot of battery backup. But if you have a power cut, they'll notify you that you've had a power cut, and if you've had a couple of power cuts that have lasted a few days, then the batteries will need replacing. But it's to give you that notification that the power is down on your fence, and if you need to do something about it, then you'd better take some action. To use this product, all you need to do is open it up, like I've done here. There's 4 screws on the front that are pretty easy to unscrew and remove. Buy a SIM card from a cellular provider, and the SIM card slots into a little slot underneath the battery there. So you just slot the SIM card in, close the device back up, plug it in and turn it on. It will then connect to the cellular network as long as the SIM card's not locked or anything. Then when it's connected to the cellular network, you use your own phone and you send a text message to the phone number of the SIM card that you've put in this device. So when you purchase the SIM card from the cellular provider, it came with a phone number. You send a text message to that saying reg, R-E-G. This device will text you back, yes, I've registered, hello. Your phone will now get alerts anytime this gets an error message from the Energizer. I've got a slide here to show you what I mean. That's a screenshot of my cell phone showing an automated message generated by the SMS controller, and it's telling me there that the SMS unit is okay, it does have power. The signal strength is 24%, so it doesn't have that great a signal strength. It could be closer to a cell tower would be better, but 24 is okay. The Energizer is okay. Zone 1, 2 and 3 are all okay, but Zone 4 has only 1.9 kV. So Zone 4 has not enough voltage to control stock, along with Zone 6. So that's an alarm message that it can send. This new image that I'm showing you is at any time as a user you can text I, the letter I, to the phone number that you've put with the SIM card inside here, and the SMS controller will text you back a message that looks like that, which means pretty much as I've described already. I'll go through it. The EN stands for Energizer, saying that the Energizer is running at 45 amps, 6.3 kV, and that's okay. So on and so forth down Zone 1, Fence Monitor 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, and then Zone 6. And Zone 6 there's a problem. With the exclamation mark you can see there's a problem. So Zone 6 is running at 20 amps, and knowing the fence, I know 20 amps is pretty high for Zone 6, and only 1.2 kV, so it's very low. So we need to get out and we need to do something about that. And talking to fence contractors, this is very handy because they need to get up in the morning and know where, in which farm, they need to investigate fences. And then to the last device to talk about, this one here, the alarm system. The alarm system has a plethora of features inside it where it can do timed and delayed alarms, it can do latched, and it can have multiple inputs from other security devices such as sensors, etc. Ignore all of that. The detailed customers can read the user manual and get that information. The key to this product is its simplicity and plug and play with the I-Serie system. Just like the SMS controller, it has two RJ12 connectors, so you just plug a RJ12 cable from there into the Energizer and it's communicating with the Energizer. The other connector underneath is a DC plug port so that you can power it from the mains, and that's the on-off button, the red on-off button. I turn it around to the side and I'll bring this a little bit closer so you can see the imagery there. It's got three connectors. The first one is connecting to a battery, so it can connect to just a 12 volt 7 amp hour standard security battery, and it can charge the battery, and then if the mains power drops, the battery will power it so that it can give an alarm or so on if there is a power cut. The next one, there you'll see the little image, is where you connect a siren, and then the last connector is for a strobe light that will flash. You simply, the image that's on the presentation there probably shows it better than I can describe. So install this product near the Energizer, and then if you follow the red line from the Energizer on the presentation there, the red line goes up and then along the fence, then we go across the gateway, then the blue line goes back to the blue terminal on this device. The green terminal on this device is connected to the earth as a reference. That's its reference for making the measurement. Now if anyone opens that gateway in the image, the power to the blue terminal is cut, and this will trigger the siren and the strobe immediately, and so you could have it as a gateway across the front of your barn. If someone undoes that gateway, the siren and the strobe go off, and hopefully you deter a would-be thief, or you can notify someone that there is a problem. So the I-Serie is a system with quite a few different products that make it up, but the ethos of the system and what we've tried to deliver to customers is giving you confidence that your electric fence is working and making it easier to have that confidence that I know how to do my electric fence and I know how to make it work. For those customers that it all gets a bit too much and they really just want a powerful ticking box, all of the I-Series Energizers are designed so they don't even need to plug in the controller. If a customer wants to buy one of these products and just wants simple power, they can turn the Energizer on without plugging in the controller and it will start ticking and power their fence. Then when they start to get confidence in it's working, they can plug the controller in and start to get the benefit out of that extra information. Before I get into the Q&A, a quick note on these webinars. We've run a previous webinar on solar Energizers. This webinar was on the I-Series, and we've got another webinar that we're intending to run on the 24th of May on a subject from suggestions from you. So if you've got suggestions on something that you'd like to see a Gallagher webinar on, then please fire them through to one of your Gallagher representatives. So down to the questions and answers, and a few have been coming through. In case anyone is needing to now turn off and go about their day, thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll try and get through a few of these questions. And like I said, get in touch with us about the next webinar. So, M1200i, is it 12 or 11 joules? So the M1200i in Europe is 11 joules only, and it needs to be 11 joules to meet the European compliance standards. So the M1200i is 11 joules. In fact, if I just go back to my presentation, you go, I've even got it on a slide. So the M1200i is 11 joules, 1800i is 14, and 2800i is 21 joules. The 58 is 58 joules, and the 10,000i is 100 joules. Okay, here's a question. Can I use the remote amps to compare an M2800i with an NDI 15,000 from Arco? Yes, you should be able to compare the two products using the amp. So I'm taking by that you've installed them on a fence and you want to measure the amps that you're getting from a 2800i and the amps that you're getting from an Arco NDI 15,000. Absolutely, the remote should be able to measure both products pretty accurately. Why does the I-Series not have a return button pulse, and the MBX series does have this? By that question, I'm assuming that you're meaning the terminal. Why does the I-Series not have a return terminal? MBX does. So I might be going a little bit off track here. The MBX, one of our older model Energizers, had a blue terminal on the Energizer. We've removed it because it confused a lot of people and they didn't need to use it. And so we've decided to simplify the system and provide the blue terminal in a separate device that is designed with that functionality to provide the security type system, the alarms if the power is cut. Why has the M1800i have a higher voltage at 500 ohms than the 2800i? Now this is true. The M1800i does have a higher voltage at 500 ohms than the 2800i, but this is due to the energy that the M2800i is delivering in each pulse, and there's compliance rules around how much energy and voltage we can deliver in each pulse. And so we've found for the 2800i to deliver, I guess, improved performance on the fence, it's better to have a slightly lower voltage at 500 ohms and a slightly wider pulse, so the pulse can travel a bit further along the fence. Now, what does 500 ohms mean? 500 ohms might be equivalent to, say, 50 acres, a 50-acre farm, or something that's a bit larger than a lifestyle block. When you go to, say, a 100 ohm load, which might be equivalent to around 150 acres or more, when you go to a 100 ohm load, the 2800i does quite exceed the performance of the 1800i. So if you're running on a light fence, a lightly loaded fence, then the 1800i outputs slightly more voltage. But if you're trying to get that power to travel a distance, the M2800i will still outperform it a kilometre or 2 kilometres away because it's got that wider pulse. And then if you're on a heavy fence, the M2800i will output than the 1800i, and it'll perform better as well over distance. There is a question here that unfortunately I can't answer. How many nettings can I run? How many nettings can I run with an M1800i, and how many with a 2800i? I'm sorry, I can't give you an answer to that because it really depends on how well grounded the Energizer is and how much vegetation there is on the nettings. Netting's obviously prone to having quite heavy vegetation because you've got a lot of wires quite close to the ground. So if the grass is sprayed, which is pretty unlikely, but if the grass and vegetation is sprayed around the netting, then you can power extensively more nettings than without. So unfortunately, that's one of the kind of trial and error methods, and you need to know what works for your region, based also on your soil conductivity and your soil moisture levels as to how well the Energizer will be earthed. Sorry, I'm not able to provide a better answer on that one. Okay, here's one. Do you need, for every fence monitor, a separate ground cable from Energizer to fence monitor? So, I'm not quite sure I understand the question. For every fence monitor that you install on the fence line, the middle terminal must be earthed. It must be earthed. Now you can connect that, if this happens to be mounted somewhere near an Energizer, you can connect this onto the Energizer earth. You don't need a separate earth stake, it can be straight onto the Energizer earth system. But to get the benefit out of this device, it's probably going to be a reasonable distance away from the Energizer, and therefore you will get benefit out of having its own earth stake. Sorry, I'm not sure if this is a question for the fence monitors. We claim estimated battery life of 1 to 2 years. Yeah, we've had some fence monitors out in the field. In fact, we released most of these products in 2012, and we've had fence monitors out in the market since then that we've been monitoring. We've been monitoring before them. Then our estimate was that you'd get about 18 months out of the batteries. We've found that in practice, even in on a fence system that has a lot of volts and it's communicating quite often, that we've got over 2 years. So if you're using batteries of reasonable quality, then you should, and those are the batteries that we provide with the product, then you should be getting about 2 years life out of it. If it's very high use, perhaps in a zoo application or similar, then maybe it would only be 18 months life because of the higher use. But yeah, our experience has been that we've been getting more than 2 years life. Sorry, just reading the questions. What happens if I use the amp meter between the Energizer and the earth? In which direction should the arrow flow? Should the arrow show? The arrow should show, if you're using it between the Energizer and the earth, the arrow should show flowing back to the Energizer. There's a question here that I might have to take offline. As we have no strong 12-volt energizers, how long will an M1800i run on a 12-volt 85 amp hour battery using an inverter? I'll need to take that one offline and get back to you, Hans. Question from Steve. Yes, I absolutely can show you. I'm going to have to wrap up soon, I think, because this is going to run over time, but how to adjust the voltage again. So I'll show here. I'll turn the Energizer on. Now I need to press the settings button on the left there. I press the arrow, so the bar graph is now flashing, and then I press the plus button and I can turn it up, the minus button and I can turn it down, plus button, turn it all the way up, and then press the settings button to apply. And then I'll press the standby button to turn it off. Question, can I use the fence monitor as a switch? No. No, the fence monitors do not have switching the fence on-off capability. Unfortunately, because of the high voltage that's on an electric fence, a switch needs to be a rather large mechanical device and have a motor to disengage and engage the switch, and the fence monitor does not have that capability. And there's a question, you have battery backups to remote SMS module alarm system, but is there a battery backup solution to the I-Series Energizer? No, but that's obviously something that's come up a few times here, and it's very much in our heads and something that's on our roadmap to do in the future. I can't give an exact time frame on what and when it'll be delivered, but that's something that we are intending to work on. And I'll see if I can answer one more before I get cut off. Alright, sorry, this is from Emil. So Emil, you can put separate fence monitors on the same earth, and you can put them downstream of each other on the same wires. So I can have a single wire, and I can have one fence monitor and a second fence monitor communicating back along the same wire to the Energizer. That's fine. And I can even have those two fence monitors connected to the same earth. The only reason that you don't want to do that is because, like I said, to get the benefit out of the product, it's saving time traveling distance. But if you are, for example, at a zoo, I'm just trying to think of where you'd want to install them that close. At a zoo where you've got the power coming from the Energizer to a junction going in 3 different ways, to the monkeys, to the elephants, to the tigers, and you want to have a fence monitor measuring the power going in each direction, absolutely you can have them all grounded to one earth stake. And similarly, you can have them communicating through each other on the fence line. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. I think I've got through most of the questions. Hans, I will try and answer via email your question about the inverter and the length of time for a M1800i. Thank you all for your attendance, and yep, if you've got any feedback or thoughts for our next session, let us know. Oh, I've lost my mouse. Here we go. Enjoy your day.